guys, we're gonna take a look at something pretty fucking horrible. It's actually not that bad. I've seen it happen before, but this is going to go along with some of the things that I've said about some of the fixtured system sharpeners. It just goes to, yes, my cabinet doors are not back yet. Nico's supposed to bring them this week. It's not a rush. The other ones were down forever. But anyway, so fixtured systems, while they do take some of the guesswork out of sharpening, are not a perfect option. They really aren't. And for a novice to say, oh, I got a KME, or I got a, I got an Edge Pro, or I got a Wicked Edge, to say that, oh, I can sharpen anything now. You're gonna find that you can't. And there's a lot of people not trying to say that you can't do a good edge on a KME, or something like that. I've seen a Bird does an excellent job. There's guys that really do, but they're taking their time and they're doing it right. And for them, the amount of time that they would throw into a fixture, I can do it a lot cheaper. And I get a lot of knives that people have sent me that they've sent to someone else. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna call it any names, but I've had people send me knives that they have just come directly from someone else for sharpening, and they're unhappy with it, and they send it to me because they were trying some different options. And I can't get upset. You know, I try different options. I buy stuff different time to time. But the fact is that the attention to detail and things like that are still required when you use a fixtured system. You can really screw up a knife with the fixtures. Anytime you're dealing with abrasives, you can really screw up a knife. So what I'm about to show you is a knife that came from a customer that we're going to take a look at, and he specifically told me that he did it right after he got his first KME, and he's sending it me to fix. Now, part of this is the grind of the knife, and I'm going to have to do a lot of work to correct this. So this is not, here's the thing too, it gets expensive. If you screw something up and then you send it to me and I have to correct something, it can get expensive. I'm not going to lie. I do know that my prices can be expensive. But when you're dealing with, sorry about that, guys. What I was saying is, when you're dealing with correcting something, it can get expensive because I have to correct the issue, and then I have to go back, and on this one, it's a pretty big correction. I have to correct the issue, and then I have to go back and then resharpen, reprofile, do all that stuff. And that's where it starts to get expensive. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna turn this around. We're gonna look, I'm in a hurry because I'm trying to get to the shop because I wanna do this. I actually set myself up for failure this morning because I tried to do too many things at once. But I just got off the phone with a customer in New Jersey and discussing some options. So I'm gonna turn this around. We're gonna look down at it here in the kitchen. I'm just gonna hold it, but we're gonna look at the issues with this knife. I'm gonna try and set something out that we can look at it on so it's, it's clear. So yeah, and then I'm not trying to call the guy out. I'm not trying to say that you can't do these things on a fixtured system. I'm just saying I see a lot of times that the damage on these knives that I have to repair, I'm like, I wish people just on expensive knives would not practice on expensive knives. I mean, I get it, you got to practice, but it hurts when you fuck up a knife that's expensive. If you go to the swap meet, you get some knives and you practice on those, it's a lot cheaper. It's all right, guys. So here's what we've got. Now, this is pretty bad. There is a complete, let's see if I can get it into picture. Can you see it? There's a complete low spot in that blade. Now, this came from the factory. This little divot here was a spot that, this is a Browse Bionic, and I like Jason, and he's got good designs, but sometimes there's things that don't make sense to me. So that's gonna wind up turning into a choil. I'm gonna have to do a choil, and then I am going to have to take that recurve right there out. I'm gonna have to take all this material on either side of that out. And then if you look, here's what I've always talked about, that rounding of the edge, where they allow that stone. Let me see if I can get around here and get a good look at it. See how that edge is rounded over? Or that tip is rounded over. It doesn't even really have a tip per se anymore. It's just a little round area. And that comes from when you're going past and you drop off the edge and you just basically knock that tip clear off that knife. And you can actually, if I can get it into focus, you can see several facets along that tip where the angle has changed. And then the other thing too is when you're addressing the stone to the blade with a fixture, if you rotate it, so the stone is supposed to be flat like this, right? Here, let's do it. This is your stone and it's supposed to be going flat, but you tip it and you hit those corners. And that's how you wind up with big nicks and spots like that in the blade. And it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it definitely is one of those ones where it is really, I'm gonna have to put some work into this. There's gonna be a lot of work that goes into this to repair that. And the other thing too is you can see right there, that is a groove that was cut in with the KME. There's one on this side, and it's just gonna be a lot of work. And you can see that even with a KME and a fixtured system, people will still favor one side. You still wind up with an asymmetrical grind, because what happens is you're comfortable with one hand, but when you flip, then you're going the opposite direction. So you wind up, one way is more comfortable than the other. It's something that I fight when I'm doing hand sharpening. I still have a tendency to favor the draw motion to myself as opposed to the push motion away. I will spend, and I have to make a mental note. I don't count strokes, but I make a mental note of how long I'm spending on each side. Now you can correct your asymmetrical by spending more time on the other side if you realize you're doing it, but if you just pay attention up front, it's a lot easier. So I am going to go up to Elliot's. Sorry about that. I may videotape some of this, but it's really hard to videotape any grinding that I'm doing because I only have, the one hand. I may show you the steps and then show you how I address the wheel and stuff like that, but I can't do the grinding one-handed. You just can't, or you'll wind up with something that's wrong. So we are not going to recoat this blade. So there's just going to be a shiny choil. It's not that big a deal. There's enough already wrong with the knife that it's not going to, that's going to be an improvement. That's going to be an improvement. So I talked to the owner. I already told him I was going to do this video. I'm not calling him out to be, I'm not going to say, this guy's stupid and this and that. No, it happens. And that's why I always recommend practicing before you start trying to do things. And if you do happen to screw up, remember, I'm always here. I can probably rectify the situation. So I am going to do another video here in the next couple days. I realized that I think it would be easier for me just to have a video that's strictly, and I'll just save a link to it somewhere in my notes, that lays out what my services are. So I'm going to do a video about my services, standard prices and things like that. But standard prices apply to a point until I get to where I'm like, this is more work than a standard price. So don't know yet what the price is going to be on this. We just have to wait and see what the work is. I know how much I'm going to charge for the choil. I mean, it's just a standard thing I pretty much have gotten to. I know how long it's going to take me. Sans any issues, it's not got much of a flat for me to use as a guide. I may have to try and figure out a way to make sure I keep the blade nice and flat so it doesn't roll. But that's that. I'm not going to charge the guy any extra for that, because that's part of the process. So all right, guys, that's it. I'm going to try and get this video thrown together and maybe start uploading while I'm gone, and then when I come back tonight, I'll load it. I'm having problems with certain videos. I had to reload one, and I don't know if things going on Patreon, things will go on Patreon still ahead of time, but it's kind of a pain to remember. I actually had a video that never wound up becoming shared. It was and I took it down because it wasn't that good of a video. But all right, guys, that's it. I'm rambling. Got to get out of here. Got work to do. Got to get in the car and head up to the shop. I'll talk to you guys. There might be more of this. We'll address this in a little bit. So guys, the next step on this is going to be to grind in a choil. Now I'm not going to use this big wheel. I'm going to use the small wheel on the back side here, but we are going to do that. Now I'm not going to be able to videotape it. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very fine belt on here. I'm going to remove enough material here to take out that point. And what had happened was, I can see exactly what happened. That's the width of, so that notch right there that got cut into that is because he was here and he was way up on this and the angle changed. And so he was trying to sharpen this out and got the corner of the stone right down into that, because it lifted the edge of the stone. Like I was saying, it lifted it up and it was cutting at an angle into that. So I'm gonna probably get that. I'm probably gonna put that on there to fix that edge initially, to save myself a little bit. I'm still gonna have to do a lot of work, but that's the plan. So it's another morning walk. You coming? With the dog and I. So what I'm going to show you guys in a few minutes, as soon as I get back, I'm going to show you what I did to that Browse Bionic that had such a horrible, whoa, slow down, dog. That had such a horrible issue with the edge. I actually, I did a little bit of work on it. I did add the finger choil, but we'll take a look at that. And then I'm probably going to sharpen that during a live feed this morning. So if you guys are seeing this video, there's probably a live feed that went up before this video did, because, you know, editing. So guys, like I said, didn't finish it yesterday. I took this Browse Bionic that you guys saw that had that horrible issue here, and I put a finger choil in it, and I coated the blade, because when I got done, it looked horrible. I wasn't going to coat it, but it had to be done. So the issue was that big thick area that you saw in the original, back at the beginning of the video, was thicker than the rest of the blade. And so what happened was, as he was sharpening this way, it was lifting, and so he cut a groove right in the middle, and this knife looked like a boomerang. It looked like a banana, like a fucking Italian sausage. And so what happened was, the blade got put against the grinder like this, and I got that part flat, and then reground the edge on it on the grinder to be resharpened. So it's still a pricey fix, but it's a lot less than if I had tried to rectify that here at the house on my stones. It would probably be about double what I'm going to charge the customer. So, but it does happen, and you can see now it's not a bad little knife now that it's significantly, not gonna lie, significantly smaller now. But it'll be sharp, it'll have a good edge, it won't have that big wide bevel where he was taking off all that material to try and account for stuff. And that's another one of the things that happens with these knives, that people get on and put them on a Wicked Edge or one of these other fixtured systems, is they go too thin. They make the angle too thin, and they wind up with that really wide bevel. They don't actually get an apex. Then it's thin, it wants to peel off, and you don't wind up with a good edge. But this is the finished product. I haven't oiled it yet. This was the finished product after, and one of the other reasons that I just decided to coat the blade was, if you look here, there was a little spot that I thought was just a little bit of rust. And Cerakote is not as waterproof or resistant to allowing moisture underneath it as a coating as this ceramic is. This ceramic completely blocks any moisture that gets in there. And so there was a spot that looked rusty, and you can see it. I blasted it, because the other thing too is, as I was cutting the choil, it scratched pretty much all of the Cerakote off here. Just even trying to be careful on the tool rest, it scratched it, and then so this was all shiny. And I can't let a knife leave that looks a certain way, because when somebody sees it and then they see it and they're like, oh, who did this? And the owner's like, oh, Mike Emler over at Crazy Sharp did a knife mod and then sharpen it. I'm like, yeah, sharpening's good, but look at that fucking blade. It looks horrible. Like, he left that shiny. And so there's times where I will do stuff every once in a while for the good of the company, for the good of my business, just because I can't let things leave a certain way. And since I was coating a bunch of stuff, and I coated a ton of stuff, I just threw it in. I threw it in with it, and that's when I realized, when I blasted it the first time, how much worse the corrosion was underneath. There was a spot around that little spot right there. There was a spot around it that was completely orange when I first hit it with the blaster and took off that first initial little bit, and it just kind of coated over. It was kind of off color, and I was like, that's weird. And when I hit it with the blaster, you could see just all that orange underneath it starting to come through. And it was going to get worse. So peeled off all that old Cerakote, put a new coating on it, just because it protects the blade. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's the repair on that one complete. I'm gonna sharpen it. Like I said, you'll probably see it in the live feed that I'm gonna do while this is editing and uploading. So, all right, guys, that's it. I know it's a little bit longer, but it was you know, it was a little bit more work. And then I'm gonna also sharpen that, torrent, that millet torrent today. So you'll probably see that in the live feed. I don't know, depends on how long I want it to be. So, all right guys, take it easy, take care of yourselves, have fun. Like I say, if you like the videos, thumbs up. If you don't like the videos, thumbs down. Some of the videos have not been as popular. But this one I know is kind of helter-skelter because it was just spur of the moment that I decided, hey, I'm gonna, if I can put some of this up. So, but if you do like them, or dislike them, but if you give it a dislike, let me know why. Let me know what it is. Was it the fact that I was just all over the place, or, you know, I've had people say your videos are just helter-skelter, all over the place. Well, I know, because that's how my brain is. That's what you get. So, all right guys, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.